Good day, everyone. My name is Joe Wetstead. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing for accesso ShoWare. I want to thank you for joining us today for our third webinar of our summer webinar series. Today's webinar will introduce or familiarize you with our fund development module in accesso ShoWare. I'm joined in presenting to you today by Melissa Allnut. Melissa is a sales engineer joining us from Liverpool, New York. Today's webinar will provide you with an understanding of accesso ShoWare's fund management module and how it relates specifically to donations. We'll also review some interesting statistics on giving and update you on Roundup for Charity specifically through accesso ShoWare. If you have questions during the webinar, please use the question box in your GoToMeeting console, and our webinar organizer, Katie, will collect them. We will address all questions following the presentation. So let's get started. At accesso, we believe technology has the power to redefine the guest experience. Everything we do starts with thinking about the guest experience first, which allows us to help simplify operations, improve guest satisfaction, and drive growth for our clients. Our product team is always looking for ways to help you build loyal customers as well as help your organization achieve its fundraising goals. When a patron gives to your organization, it's the highest compliment. That they believe in your vision and what you stand for, and even if they only give 50 cents, it's a start to developing that patron into a larger donor. I would contend that someone who gives even 50 cents is a better target for future giving than someone who gives nothing at all. So let's set the stage for giving. According to the National Association of Charitable Statistics, 72% of all contributions come from individuals. And Charity Navigator, a national charity evaluator, found that 69% of Americans donate to charity. The main takeaway here is lots of people have the propensity to give. And really, if you don't ask, you don't get. So let's take a look at Roundup donations in 2015. The Cause Marketing Forum released their findings from a study of 77 organizations, bringing in over 1 million annually. They found that 7 in 10 people surveyed are willing to donate to charity at checkout, and 55% enjoy donating at checkout. This study also analyzed the percentage of people who donate at a certain level, which we'll cover in the next slide. Here you can see the percentage of people donating at certain dollar amounts. This is where it gets interesting. Most people likely assume that when asked to donate, customers will give the minimum amount. Let's say you have 100 people willing to round up to charity. With this basic assumption, you might expect to make anywhere between $25 to $75, maybe close to 100 if you were really lucky. But research shows that people are actually much more generous than that. The most common donation amount is actually between $1 and $2, and 34% donate $2 or more. This means that statistically, for those 100 people you thought you might get $100 from if you're lucky, it will actually look more like $175, which is a conservative estimate. We'll talk about how our client stories stack up against this particular study later in the presentation, and the results are even more exciting. There are many benefits to guests as we establish the average American enjoys donating to charity, and 71% of those surveyed are willing to donate at checkout. This provides an increased sense of community to your patrons, the ability to be part of a campaign, and feel as if they're making a difference. Furthermore, 60% say they feel more positive about a retailer, venue, arena after donating. The accesso ShoWare donation process is simple and seamless. It allows for an ask at the time when your potential donors are already engaged with you. These could be people who have thought about donating to your cause in the past, but never had a convenient opportunity to do so. By reminding them at the point of purchase, you're doing these folks a favor. Remember, more than half of your patrons feel really good about donating. Finally, our Roundup allows for donors to remain anonymous if they desire, which is not always an option in traditional giving campaigns. There's also organizational benefits. The accesso ShoWare Fund Management module Gives you a vehicle to raise money for yourself or another organization. And it's important to point out that just because you're not a 501c3 nonprofit, not recognized as that, you can, as a venue, have a cause that you're going to do this roundup donating to, and this can create better relationships with you and others in the community, and let your patrons know you care. So that's a great use for it. We also allow you to streamline and control the process. No third-party integration. All data is yours. Funds are deposited directly to you. Automated communication and reporting helps you close the loop and make it easy and seamless to your patrons and donors. So the patron donates, they get a thank you, the tax information is included in that thank you, it's all automated. The important takeaway here is patrons see a charge from your organization, not a third-party site collecting donations and remitting back to you. And finally, you gain access to powerful patron data. Donations are fully integrated with your patron records. It helps you identify your donor base and effectively communicate in the future. Let's take a look at our beta client for charity, Tarrytown Music Hall. We've been following their roundup since we implemented roundup donations almost 2 years ago. With the accesso ShoWare Fund Management module, there are 2 ways to collect donations. Through our donations module using funds and campaigns that Missy will provide a deeper dive on later in the webinar, and through Roundup for Charity. Tarrytown uses both features, but we'll be looking at their progress with Roundup data today. And as you can see on the screen, this is what a typical Roundup at checkout looks like. All messaging on the screen is fully customizable and allows you to talk to your base in your voice. So, some ideas here, some ideas on that screen where you're talking to them in your voice. You could have a contest that you could put something in there that says, every Roundup donation will be entered into a drawing. You could, you can let them know what campaign they're donating to, so very customizable there in speaking with your base. Next, Missy. Sorry, I went off script. When compared to the national average for Roundup at checkout, Tarrytown is outperforming the average in size of donation, with 50% of donations being $5 or greater. As you'll see from the next slide, this is key to Tarrytown's success. Breaking down the numbers at Tarrytown over the last 12 months, we can see that they collected 1,915 Roundup donations online. This number represents about 10% of their overall online ticket purchases. Their average Roundup donation amount was $5.17, and 91% of the revenue was for $5 or was generated from $5 or more donations. Of the 1,900 that used Roundup at checkout, 365 people donated $10 or more, while 28 people donated $50 or more. In the end, Tarrytown raised nearly $11,000 through Roundup alone, with no additional real marketing costs. Again, we talked about closed loop. Because the entire process is automated from ask through thank you letter, there's really no additional labor required of Tarrytown to administer the Roundup campaign. Missy, at this point, we'll hand things over to you, and here we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar. So before we go and look at our integrated solution and the pieces and parts that are available to help you create those effective campaigns, let's talk about some best practices and the things that you should consider as you're creating those campaigns. So first, the donate button. Place it on each page of your website. Have it stand out, use a different font, use a different color, anything that will draw attention to it. Make it painfully easy for your patrons to give. Hiding it under a drop-down just requires them to have to look. Remind your patrons why they should give, why it's important to your venue. Provide your target goals and what that money is going to be used for. And if possible, update your site with the status of where you are towards that goal. They want to donate. They just need a little help understanding where their money is going to be used. Guide your patrons during the donation process. offer multiple campaigns as they may connect with one versus another. And when they get to that donation page, suggest multiple donation amounts, leaving them to determine how much they want to give could result in a lower than anticipated amount. And when you provide several options, they're likely to donate even higher. Incentives, they're always nice. It could be as simple as a recognition in your program. It could be their name on the wall in the lobby. It could be a drink delivered to their seat on a particular performance. People like to give and they like to be recognized. Make it mobile. Accesso ShoWare site is completely responsive design, so use this to your advantage. Your patrons are already purchasing tickets via the mobile site. Help them donate through this channel as well. Acknowledge every single gift, regardless of that size. Just like Joe said, that 50-cent gift, acknowledge it with a thank you. And when it's set up correctly on the back end and the administrative side of our solution, this acknowledgement is automatically sent. So we'll show you that in a little bit as well. Verified by GeoTrust just indicates that your patron's donation is a secure transaction. So it's important that your patrons notice this and that you have that GeoTrust logo on each and every one of your pages. When using our Roundup feature, there's a couple best practices to keep in mind, maybe just for this feature alone. If possible, to optimize your ticket price, try not to have a round number in that bottom, in the basket. If your ticket price is $25 and if you include a fee, maybe that fee should be $1.10. But offering and having that basket total be $15.50 will help bring those patrons over into a roundup and they'll click that button a little faster. Try and keep the suggested amounts in the roundup relevant for that targeted campaign. You saw Tarrytown and they had a wide range of suggested amounts. Our solution allows you to create different suggested amounts at the roundup. If you're doing something on a smaller scale, maybe smaller donation amounts, again, just trying to incent your patrons into providing a donation to you or your organization that you're supporting. And like Joe said, for those for-profit organizations that feel that they can't use a Roundup feature, you most certainly can. Using this feature is a great way to build community relationships. And you can help provide assistance to outside organizations. Maybe in October it's breast cancer awareness, and those donations that were received during the Roundup can go towards that organization. Maybe it's the SPCA. So build the community relationships by using our Roundup feature as a for-profit organization to create community. So what we're going to do is just take a look at how we can make these things happen on the front side as well as the back side. And we'll start first at the front facing. As Joe said, there's two avenues that you can use within our solution to be able to incent your patrons to donate. The first is through the donation module itself. And if I click on the Make Donation, it will bring me to my landing page. Just like the ticketing side, you're creating that patron experience. We're providing you ample space and ample messaging to be able to create those why statements and go for the ask. So use those areas well to be able to tell your patrons what you're trying to achieve and how. If I click on the Donate for the Theater Expansion Project, what I'm doing is showing you different numbers of funds. So our solution will allow you the flexibility and control to create any number of funds and campaigns. Again, helping your patrons and helping them guide them into choosing the right fit. And then the next screen is the donation screen itself, which we're showing donation amount options. As we said in the best practices, will help guide your patrons to be able to pick a suggested amount based on their wallet and based on your needs. Another way the second avenue to be able to create donations within the module is through your ticketing site. And there's three very obvious ways that you can use. So let's go buy some tickets to West Side Story. And on the first page is our landing page. And the first item is called a suggested item. So these three boxes can be invoked on the administrative side and can be used for other performances, or you can suggest a campaign donation at this screen. Again, while you've got your patrons purchasing a ticket, utilize these different steps to be able to suggest a donation. Let's go in and purchase a ticket. And our second item is going to be in the basket. So I'll go and pick a ticket. And now when I get to my basket, we've got what we call a call out. It's another suggested item in the basket, and different than the related events or the suggested item at the landing page, which is connected to the event, this is connected to your performance. So if you think about it, you could have a different call out for every one of your performances, and each one can drive your patrons to donate to a different campaign. Obviously, during the entire process, you also have the ability to add the Make a Donation button, which will drive them to the donation pages that I showed you previously. And the third part is within our streamlined checkout, and it's the roundup for charity or roundup for a cause. So I will just pay for these tickets quickly. And the third section is where, if you have it invoked on the administrative side, is going to show your patrons that you're asking for another donation, or in this case, roundup. In my shopping cart total, I've got $70.50. If I round up to the next dollar, it will automatically add that 50 cents to my order. And what you're doing is you're turning your pennies into dollars. And as Joe said, you've got all that patron data on the back end to be able to solicit for future appeals, future campaign strategies, etc. I'll just go ahead and finalize the sale. As you know, each order, regardless of what's in the order, will receive a confirmation. So my confirmation will automatically come to me indicating that I've got my one ticket and that I have a donation of 50 cents. And as I said in the best practices, we'll also have a thank you that is automatically sent. So let's go look a little bit at the administrative side and how to set up these different campaigns and the different toggles that you want to use. We first talked about the event level. And at the event level, we talked about the related items that you can attach. So if I pick up West Side Story, again, and if I look at the landing page tab, when it comes up, there we go. At the bottom is where you're going to have the opportunity to be able to suggest some items that your patrons can add to their basket. Again, this is at the event level. So if you've got runs of shows, it's going to show up at every single event level. Next is going to be in your performance setup, and we showed you the call out in the basket. So we'll look at, again, West Side Story. And the call out is created and invoked in the marketing tab. And if I slide down here a little bit, you're going to see suggested item in basket. And again, this is across your performance. So like I said before, you can have a call out for each performance if you want to. The nice thing is also you have the ability to be able to customize your words to your patrons and create that ask. Everything is easy to create within the system, and then you just create your action link, and that will automatically appear again in that basket. So if we go now over to our fund development side of things and the toggles that you need to set up for that avenue of donations, we'll start under donation settings. Obviously, you want to allow your online donations to be able to solicit those revenues from your patrons during the online sale process. Your default campaign is what's going to be used for your Roundup for a Cause. It'll also be used for the public site if your patron is creating or registering as a new patron. But you can switch this up as many times as you want to, and then you've got the back-end reporting to be able to understand how much money has come in for this particular campaign. Under messaging, we talked a lot about the messaging. We talked a lot about the ask. We talked a lot about the tell your patrons why you want their money, what you're going to use with their money. These messages are completely controlled by you, so utilize them and create that ask and create that urgency and need to be able to let your patrons know what they're donating for and the reasons behind it. Funds are similar to your events on the ticketing side. They're that overarching umbrella for your campaigns. So on the fund side, that was that first stop in our donation on the online side. Again, the ask for the why, you can create as much information as you want. And then under the campaign, so you can have multiple campaigns underneath each of your funds. And if I look at the Let's Raise the Curtain campaign, this is where you would provide all of the specific information about that particular campaign. Again, is there a date range? In my case, I want to be able to raise that curtain early 2017. So my appeal, my donation campaign is going to end at the end of 2016 in hopes of raising $100,000 towards my goal. The Amount tab will allow you to create those suggested amounts, and again, keep them related to the particular campaign. And the Thank You email tab is where you would set up that email. And again, as long as you have this toggled, that thank you email is going to be sent out automatically when the donation is made online. You have the ability, again, to customize that donation email letter. We give you a lot of tokens to be able to make it customized, and one of the tokens that you can include within this email is a fund tax ID. The nice thing about this is not only are you thanking your patron, but you're also providing them with a tax ID so that when they go to their accountant, they've got all the pertinent information that they need for their taxes. So you've got all these donations now, and our back-end reporting is going to help you know who those donors are, what their value is to you, and the ability to be able to create some reports and some, some Excel spreadsheets, etc., to be able to ask in the future for future campaigns and future appeals. So underneath our donation search, which I think is very underutilized, you've got so much criteria that you can build a report from. And this report can be exported off into Excel. And like I said, you have the ability to buy criteria. Maybe I want to see everybody that is donated this year between the amounts of 50 cents and $10 because we're going to try and solicit those patrons, those maybe Roundup patrons, into a bigger campaign. So utilizing the donation search under the Fund Development module will provide you a lot of ways to be able to create those types of reports. Under reporting, under patrons, we have what's called a patron value report. The Patron Value Report, again, offers multiple criteria for you to be able to create a report. And this report is going to give you every piece of information that you need to know about your patron, right down to how many donations they've made, the total amount of donations, and what their total value is to your organization. Underneath the donations tab itself under reporting, it also gives you several other ways to be able to create reports to see where you're at against specific campaigns and based on specific criteria. So accesso ShoWare's integrated donation module, it's in no way to replace your current appeal efforts and the different marketing efforts that you have out there, but using our tools is certainly going to help you increase revenue while your patrons are purchasing their tickets online. So, Joe, I will pass this back to you.
Thank you, Missy. At this time, we'd like to open the floor for any questions related to the donations module or anything you saw during today's presentation. Again, you can use the question box in your GoToMeeting console to ask those questions. Katie?
Thank you, Joe. We do have a couple of questions from the group, and I will start with this first one, which is pretty basic. Does this cost anything?
Missy, I think you have a good way to phrase that.
No, the donation module is an integrated module within our solution. What it does is it follows your contract as far as the per ticket fee goes. So donations would follow the same per ticket fee model as it does in your contract. But when it comes to the roundup portion, anything under $5 will not have any fee associated with it. So this is a great way for you to, raise some money for you, for other organizations, etc.
Great, thank you, Missy.
Great.
Our second question is, how many campaigns can I run at the same time?
Wow, the sky's the limit, honestly. As I said, the flexibility and control within the accesso ShoWare model allows you to be able to create as many funds and as many campaigns as you want. And the nice thing is that you do have that date range, so you can have those capital campaigns that run year over year, and then you can have, like I had my current campaign, which will only run 5 months. So you can create as many funds and campaigns as you want to.
Great. Okay, and then the last question we have so far is, if I'm using the donations module, do I have to use Roundup for a cause?
No, certainly up to you. As I showed you, it's a toggle, so that default campaign, you would just leave that empty, and we would just not toggle that module in the back end of your system. But having said that, having the real, the Roundup for a cause certainly will help you turn those pennies into dollars, and you saw the results at Tarrytown.
Great. So nice and easy. It's always good to have options, right? And
sure.
I think that's it for questions, unless anyone has anything they would like to submit.
Okay. Great. If you do have any questions, you can always ask your customer service manager directly. You can email Missy or myself, and we'd be happy to talk with you. As far as costs go, we do, work with you to, put the best program in place for your organization, and on the per donation fees, and we think it's a great tool to use. So thank you for attending today's webinar. You're going to receive an email tomorrow with a link to access the webinar recording. We also want to invite you to our last webinar in the summer series on September 29th, where we'll continue our review of the accesso ShoWare Fund Management module and specifically dive into memberships. And memberships really builds on top of donations or sits next to donations, or some organizations use memberships as their fundraising tool rather than donations. But again, we're going to look at that component and really really a great tool to use if you're not using memberships to drive a little more revenue and create those loyal patrons you're going to want to attend. We look forward to sharing the exciting functionality with you on September 29th, and again, we're honored to have you with us and spend a little time with you today. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you.